Hey guys, just Gadamu here, and I've been messing around with customs today. I've got piles of incomplete ground type Gundams. I thought I should have some battle scarred ground type Gundam scrap figures and scraps battle scarred by custom battle scarred by Josh Cerner. So I thought I'd lay out what I have and things like that. And I started working on various projects. Most of them didn't work out, but I wanted to cover them so that I could share what I was able to do. So first up, improve seed flexibility in the shoulders. You make a cut into the squarish area. Let's see where this has been cut. It's a pretty rough cut. But, if I can balance the camera here. This gives it a lot more flexibility than it did before. Also, the best way to cut out these is to go through the top. Cut out the top section here of this strike. That's how I got the joint out. I was hoping that I could utilize the strike joint. See, in some of my archives, other people's customs, I found this Delta Team GM ground type with shoulder joints. Well, I couldn't figure out what they were. Well, I did. They come from the DOM version 2. And I don't really want to scrap DOM version 2s just for shoulder joints. So I was like, okay, well, what has shoulder joints that I don't care about? Well, the Shadow Gundam has a double ball joint, as does the Burning Gundam. However, these aren't compatible with the ground type Gundam's ball joint. Also, they're just not, it just didn't work out. They're too narrow. I cut out a section here so I could mess with it. Someday I'll find a way to use this, but thus far, not so good. This is from the foot joint of a Burning Gundam. It's got a double ball joint here, here, and another one inside. I was just kind of playing around with the idea. One thing I did do was I took my ground type Gundam version 2 arm and I did a test where I modded a shoulder joint, or the shoulder peg hole from the strike on there. So now you can actually have that. I could probably dye that a very light gray. Still, it probably wouldn't match up. And then the shoulder doesn't stay on. It's just not a big enough joint. It's just not out there far enough. This might be able to be used with like the Gundam version 2 RX-78, though I don't really want to steal the RX-78 version 2 joints, but it's, you know, it's a possibility. Ultimately, I was just trying to improve my ground types to give them some shoulder joints like the Strike has, but without using, you know, a DOM version 2. Because that seems like a waste of DOM version 2. I've got lots of Strikes and lots of G Gundams and whatnot. And since my collection is all UC focused, you know, I don't mind stealing from them. I usually steal the Strike's arm joints in order to make the ground type Gundams version 2. Those arm joints. I think that's going to be the height of what I can do, sadly. Because while this can be removed, it can be implanted, I can't seem to get the shoulder to stay on. And I thought that I would use this piece and glue it into the shoulder, but it makes the shoulder too thick. It just won't fit onto the peg anymore. I thought that would work, but no, it didn't. So ultimately, I ended up with nothing. Yep, nothing. I'd seen this before, and it absolutely worked. Figured out that I could take the upper strike joint and add it to a ground type arm. That's important. I have a feeling that's going to come in handy one of these days. But at the moment, I don't really have a use for it. It didn't work for the ground types. It seems unnecessary for the GM version 1.9s that I've developed, since they use 1.5 arms. I like those 1.5 arms. I wasn't trying to, I did not endeavor to make the GM 1.9 into a version 2. I meant to take a Gundam 1.5 and mix it with a GM, and found out that I could take the Strike's torso ball joint and utilize it as well pretty easily. And I'm really proud of that. I don't feel a need to up it anymore. The ground types can be modded into version 2s using dual ball joint torsos, strike arms or dual arms, and Gundam version 2 legs, which I might be able to utilize some of the Shadow Gundam legs for that as well. That's my next test that I'm going to be seeking out. You know, part of it is, I mean, like, I know it's crazy trying to version 2ify everything in my collection that's UC. I enjoy it. But part of the challenge is figuring out where do you get the parts, because if you steal them from perfectly good version 2 units, then you don't even have those. You know, like I could build this, but I'd have to take a DOM version 2 shoulder joints. Well, what am I going to do with it then? It doesn't make sense. But stealing from the Strike and the G Gundams and things like that, that makes sense. But they're still not, some of those version 2s are still kind of hard to get. RX-78 version 2s. There's a limited amount of them. And I'm thinking that the Burning Gundam, I have dozens and dozens of, and he's got version 2 legs. Shadow Gundam is not as hard as it used to be to get. It's just things I'm looking into, trying to figure out. I've figured out how to version 2ify most of the things in my collection, like the gun cannons now. So there's not a lot left to do that with. More it's a quantity thing for my animations and things like that. Well, ramble's over. Like I said, thus far I accomplished improving the Strike shoulder joint design and figuring out it could be added on to other things, which may be useful someday, but today is not useful. Meh. Oh well. Hope this encourages, inspires, or, you know, saves somebody else time. Even though there's not a whole lot of Gundam customizers left. MSA customizers. Later.